Today in Across the Fence, a rare opportunity to go behind the scenes of a special international garden exhibition and competition. We'll learn about these horticultural works of art and engineering that are part of a fascinating exhibit now on display in Montreal. Good afternoon and thanks for joining us. I'm Judy Simpson. Joining me with a special look at just about every aspect of an exhibit known as Mosaicultures is UVM Extension horticulturalist Leonard Perry. Good to have you back in the program. Did I pronounce that correctly? Because I've never heard of these.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and these are actually like topiaries, but they're a little bit different. Topiary is where you have plants growing around a frame like vines. Mosaicultures are actually growing into frames. You have a frame, you have soil inside with cloth on the outside, and their plants are planted right in that. Now, what we have this year up in Montreal at the Botanic Gardens is an international competition, which actually started in Montreal, but down at the old port. Some people may have seen some years ago, about 13 years ago. It travels every 3 years. So for the last 10 years, it's not been back in North America. So this is a chance to see it. Who knows where it'll be in 3 more years. But there are actually 48 of these sculptures which are from various countries. It is international, and they've been judged, and they depict the theme Land of Hope. So you can actually learn about geography, you can learn about some cultures, you can learn about some legends, and conservation of wildlife.
And so some people won't be thinking of a garden-sized sculpture, but these are huge.
Yeah, well, this is not really garden size. It's kind of deceiving. There you got the flowers, but that's actually about 10 or 15 feet high. It's a watering can. You see a nice logo, and again, that's all plants on a frame. And a lot of these are just foliage plants. This one actually has traveled to each exhibition, and this isn't, you know, one of the big ones. I mean, it's obviously bigger. You see right on the head there of that mallard mosaic culture, you see actual ducks. You know, so you can kind of see the relationship there. I thought that was cute to catch that. The beak obviously is not flowers in there, but sometimes the feathers on the birds and the eyes on things aren't of flowers or plants, but everything else is. And these have traveled to each, and you see them over the water there. Now there are 3 main exhibits that depict some of the sub-themes. This is a man who planted a tree, and it's actually based on a fable and a film which actually came out in 1987 and has garnered 40 awards since. And it's basically one of the sub-themes of the show of an effect that one person can have, the positive effect. And here he's planting a tree, and by just planting trees, you see in the foreground stones depicting a desert, the shepherd, but in the background all the flowers. And we'll take a closer look at some of these. Take a look at his dog. A lot of people just love this. This is all brown carex or sedge grass except for his nose and eyes, and he's sitting there watching the people as they go by. But just a beautiful thing, and you can see again the delineation there of the stone after his efforts. The flowers, here's his flock grazing, and you see the little bits of flowers in the well in the background. Or the shepherd who planted the tree. And one of my favorites are these horses, and in several exhibits they had these horses. They're huge. These are 15, 20 feet high, and again, a lot of foliage, a lot of the silvery things like the alternanthera and sedums, and then that manes were different, again, brown carex or the green carex on these horses. And in the foreground, those were just Cosmos, Rudbeckia, and the bluets. So the 3 just made a beautiful combination. Here you see the level of detail. It just, you can, you know, almost looks like the horse is, you know, making a sound. Second big exhibit is Mother Earth, and this is very spectacular. And this was a similar one was at the earlier exhibit I saw in Montreal, but this, I think they've really raised the bar in this show, and this had so much more, depicting again basically the relationship of mankind to Earth, interdependence with the things of the Earth. It's based on a supposed speech, which hasn't been historically proven, by Native American Chief Seattle to Franklin Pierce back in 1855, where he talked about many things and the importance of these various animals, importance of eagles. And here you see a waterfall coming out of the hand with an eagle there, and just many aspects, the horses, the ponies, importance of this. And I love the coloration on these, the way they've done, and showing them in action and in motion.
Yeah, it really depicts motion.
Yeah, and just
it's
like the manes are flying in the air, you know, with the carex, the way they've done that, and the expression on the faces. And here the buffalo with a field of cosmos yet to come into bloom. But to me, not only about the importance of the interdependence of mankind, but to me this was actually probably the most, hit home the most about the theme Land of Hope. The eagle that we saw and the buffalo here were almost extinct. Mankind almost destroyed them, but it's mankind who also basically are bringing them back. So it shows you can have an effect if they aren't extinct. And it's something to keep in mind when we show you some later, some animals that are truly in danger now. So that was the second of the big ones. A deer, again, just huge, 12, 15 feet high, all done in flowers, planted. Now this was probably the total, ultimate. In the bottom picture you see people. This thing, for a scale, in this pond, this are 56 endangered or almost extinct birds from around the world, endangered. This is about 50 or so feet high and across. This thing is huge, and this is it took 6 years in the making. It weighs over 100 tons. They actually have, when the people maintain these, you can see them during the day maintaining a lot of these. They actually rappel up and down like tree climbers do with ropes. They had to get specialized training, and here you see some of the people and waiters around the base and then climbing up with these ropes. But these are all various endangered birds, and it was very amazing because during the day they were playing music, not music but sounds of these birds. So you walk in and you hear these various birds and you see this. It's very moving, and to see these against the sky, and even some of the expressions on these, they're basically flying. This is a tree trunk, and the tree branches transform into these birds, which are flying away trying to escape their fate, because again they're all very endangered or threatened. And you can see just a lot of it's just basically all foliage plants put into this frame. Again, this is just one that the heaviest bird actually weighs 3 tons. They had to work out the engineering on this, and how they were going to maintain this in a special mix, growing mix, which they ended up using in all the others. But here again, the feathers would not be plants, but all the rest of the birds would be various types of foliage. A lot of things like we use in our gardens, but just clipped and trained. They maintain these every day. You see people on these. And I thought this was a log at first, and I got close. It's actually a crocodile here. It looks like with a lot of little, the hens and chicks.
Look at the eye.
And with the little eyes looking at you. So very realistic, a lot of these.
So how do these things get made? I mean, what are they made of, and how do you put them together?
Okay, well, it's interesting because there's you have to think about the 2 dimensions, which is really how it started, and you still see those a lot in Montreal in the old section in front of the City Hall. You see a berm, and you see the 2-dimensional. So I started with those, but we'll actually show you, and they actually have an exhibit of the 3-dimensional, but this was actually a recreation of the first mosaic culture ever, 1878, in the Paris exhibition. Mr. Comès, who was a French gardener, created this. They have great signage around on each display. They actually have a picture of his drawing, and they have recreated as best they can with existing plants, the plants he used. So this was like the first mosaic culture. And so now you see ones that are a little bit different, and more the 2- and 3-dimensional. But you see a frame here, wire frame they create, and those birds and all those we saw earlier were wire frames welded together. Then they cover it with cloth. They actually put drip irrigation there. They fill it with a growing mix, like a potting mix like we might use. Then they put, like you see here, a man and an elephant on there. They sketch it out, and those going back and forth, that's the irrigation tubes. And they make little holes, and they actually put all these plants. They're little plants. They're grown in these little plug trays. Plug them in there. And this exhibit's neat because you can actually go and explain it, and you can actually help make this one. So it's very cool how that works. And here's a finished one. This is actually from a city in Quebec, Trois-Rivières, between kind of Montreal and Quebec City. And it's actually showing the bridge, the La Violette Bridge, which crosses the St. Lawrence, the largest bridge in Quebec, their longest, and showing nature on one side and a city on the other, which basically is kind of pushed back nature, but really depicting how these, the bridge between them, how they really can coexist. Here's one that's actually 3-dimensional, and you can see the workers up there trimming and working on them, but it's actually 2-dimensional panels on each side. This is downtown Montreal, some of the scenes down there, and if we take a closer look at that, we can actually see some of the details on that with the little sedums and such in there creating the church there. This is a little different one. This is kind of that berm I mentioned earlier, 2-dimensional. This is the Uffington horse, which is in England, near Oxfordshire. It's actually, in the real one, is carved into chalky cliffs and actually dates back to 1000 BC. It was made by the Celtic peoples, and it still exists today. So again, you can learn a lot of history too in these.
And so the mosaics are depicting different areas of different countries?
Different countries, as well as, you know, the conservation. A lot of times those are tied together. So some of the countries, we can take a look at some of those, which is truly amazing. This was from Japan, and that's actually Mount Fuji, and that's a grand piano. It's like, what? Which is pretty amazing. And then you go to the other side and you see it with the white on it. This is a city, and it's actually makes motorcycles, but also big in the musical instruments. And they use the piano to depict this. Is one of the things they're really stressing. But they also have a lot with conservation. On the loggerhead turtle, on the sand dune, they're trying to conserve that. So this depicts that. But I thought the keyboard was pretty amazing too. It's, again, all plants, you know, silvery plants, and then those are pots of that red alternanthera on top. They've just left the pots for the black keys on the keyboard. So again, this is huge, and it's just gorgeous. But that depicts a city and what they're doing. This is from the Moselle region of France, known for their gastronomy and food. These are measuring spoons, and each of those pots has all edible plants in it. So and they have some recipes there how to use those plants. So that was very different. You see this is California, depicting farmers, and it's great. They have the crops planted on flowers, but, you know, simulating the vegetables, and his kind of old truck with things growing in it. That was very neat, but again, a theme that kind of resonates to home. One of the things that was very interesting is they had these shade mosaicultures. Now, most of these plants really like sun, so this was a kind of a challenge. They have 5 of these woodland type creatures like the green man here. This is basically all done into various English ivies, and you can, you know, see the face, you know, growing up around this tree, but sculpture, but it's just, that was a whole different area, which was very nice. China had really, speaking of geography, several, and this was another one. They had, and it depicts a legend actually of the phoenix, and planting plane trees to attract the phoenix. Phoenix was a sign of you know, happiness and peace and beauty, and so it shows by, you know, the efforts you have, you can actually create beauty. But that is huge too. That is waxleaf begonias up top, and you can see how many of those were put in there. That is just truly amazing to see that close up and think of it. Another legend I loved was from China, and this is a woman who saved cranes, a red-necked crane. She was a student at Northern University. When she finished, she went to southern China to save these birds, and she actually went into this swamp and perished saving the birds, which survived. So here you see the birds in various stages of the flight. Her about 40, 50 feet high with the bird. The swamp is created with this fog coming up. It's truly a neat thing to walk around and see and experience. And then this was probably the most moving to me. It's a story many people may know from the Dog's Tale movie that came out in 2009, and it's about a dog, Hachiko, which went to the train station, which is here, with its master each day, and when he came home from university, he would meet him, and one day the master died at the university, and the dog for 10 years went every day to the train station waiting for his master. You know, people fed him and all, but just truly beautiful dog. And in fact, a recent addition to our Milton police force, their canine, they actually named after this dog.
Nice. And so what were some of the other themes?
Okay, some of the other themes, again, were about conservation, and brought several of those just to really give an idea. And actually at the end, I've got on my website, which will mention a list of the links to some of the organizations that you can actually go to and learn more about conservation and help. Here's about bees and the plight of bees and the pollinators and the decline of bees, and you see someone maintaining the flowers on those. Here is a province of Belgium, and they have a big focus on pollinators. This was a butterfly on a flower, but they also have various other insect pollinators in their display, and they've actually really reduced the use of pesticides, similar to what Quebec has, to help protect the pollinators from getting damaged. This was actually preservation of a water buffalo in Thailand, which a wild water buffalo which become extinct, a coral reef in Okinawa, the clownfish and the sea anemone that kind of coexist. Again, a lot of succulent plants in there. You see the pandas that are in danger, not too many left in the wild. Chimpanzees. Again, you can read all about these when you go there. Begonias and bananas planted in the background. And similar to those, the gorillas, all done in black mondo grass. orangutan and that brown carex again, all endangered animals. A frog, some frogs are endangered. The Atlanta Botanic Garden is working on those, and the lemurs all lined up here, and these again are endangered, and so it's about those as well.
Now, if people want to learn more about these exhibits or hours and so forth at the gardens, you can find that information.
Go to my website. Yeah, I've got links there to the Botanic Garden site. You can learn more about this, as well as a lot more, some pictures as well, the perennials.info.
Well, thank you so much for giving us this little side trip. It was great. That's our program for today. I'm Judy Simpson. We'll see you again next time on Across the Fence.
For a video copy of today's program, call toll-free 1-888-ATF-3430. Across the Fence is brought to you as a public service by University of Vermont Extension and WCAX-TV.